وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Hasten to the forgiveness of your Lord and to Jannah, the expanse of which is like the heavens and the earth, prepared for the muttaqeen. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, أو تدعوه إلى موافقة الهوى. That is, that he cuts off the ties and the asbab and the reasons that lead him to agree with his desires. When that person has that thought and he follows it with an idea, and then he follows it with firm resolve, and then it manifests in action, what is it, ikhwan, that has occurred? He has allowed the asbab, he has allowed certain reasons to cause him to follow his desires. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he likewise mentions in Kitab al-Fawa'id, دافع الخطرة فإنها لم تفعل صارت فكرة. He said, repel the thought, for indeed if you do not do so, it will become an idea. فدافع الفكرة فإن لم تفعل صارت شهوة. So repel the idea, for indeed if you do not do so, it will become desire. فهاربها, and so fight against it, wage war against that desire. فإن لم تفعل صارت عزيمة, for indeed if you do not do so, then it will become azima, firm resolve, and hamma and himma, and this firm desire that you now have to carry it out. فإن لم تدافعها صارت فعلا, and if you do not repel that, then it becomes an action. فإن لم تتداركه, and if you then do not remedy and repair the action, بضده, يعني with tawbah, صار عادة, it becomes a habit. He regularly performs it and carries it out and practices it. فيصعب عليك الانتقال عنها, and then it becomes difficult for you then to move from it. And so Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentions, وَلَيْسَ الْمُرَادِ أَنْ لَا يَكُونُ لَهُ هَوَى. He said the intent here is not that he doesn't have desire, بَلْ يَسْرِفْ هَوَاهُ إِلَى مَا يَنْفَعُ, but that he turns his desires to that which is beneficial to him. And then he goes on to explain why. He mentions, وَيَسْتَعْمِلُهُ فِي تَنْفِيذِ مُرَادِ الرَّبِّ تبارك وتعالى, and then he uses it to carry out that which pleases his Rabb, that which pleases his Lord تبارك وتعالى. فإن ذلك يدفع عنه شر استعماله في معاصي, for that will repel from him the evil of acting upon that thing in sin. He continues, فإن كل شيء من الإنسان يستعمله لله فإن الله يقيه شر استعماله لنفسه وللشيطان. For indeed every single thing that a person possesses, when he uses it for the sake of Allah, when he uses it in the way of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects him from him using it in relation to himself and in accordance with that which pleases the shaitan. وَمَا لَا يَسْتَعْمِلُهُ لِلَّهِ اسْتَعْمَلَهُ لِنَفْسِهِ وَهَوَاهُ. And that which he does not use for the sake of Allah, then he will use it for himself or upon himself and his desires. He mentions, وَلَا بُدَّ فَالْعِلْمُ إِن لَمْ تَكُنْ لِلَّهِ إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لِلَّهِ كَانَ لِلنَّفْسِ وَهَوَى. He said, and that is a must that will occur. For indeed knowledge, for example, إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لِلَّهِ, if knowledge is not for the sake of Allah, he mentions, كَانَ لِلنَّفْسِ وَالْهَوَى, then it will be for oneself, for one's nafs and one's desires. وَالْعَمَلْ إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لِلَّهِ, and action likewise, if it is not done for the sake of Allah, كَانَ لِلرِّيَا وَالنِّفَاقِ, then it is for riyah, then it is to be seen of the people and for hypocrisy. وَالْمَالِ إِن لَمْ يُنْفَقْ لِلَّهِ أُنْفِقَ فِي طَاعَةِ الشَّيْطَانِ وَالْهَوَى, and wealth, if it is not spent for the sake of Allah, then it is spent upon obeying shaitan and one's desires. وَالْجَاهِ إِن لَمْ يُسْتَعْمَلْ لِلَّهِ اسْتَعْمَلَهُ صَاحِبُهُ فِي هَوَاهُ وَحُضُودِهِ. If similarly one's position and one's honorable position that he may have, if it is not used for the sake of Allah and in the sake of Allah, then the one that possesses it will use it for his desires and for his own lot. وَالْقُوَّةِ إِن لَمْ يَسْتَعْمَلْهَا فِي أَمْرِ اللَّهِ اسْتَعْمَلَتْهُ فِي مَعْصِيَتِهِ. Strength likewise, quwwah, if it is not used for obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it will use him for obedience to sin and for disobeying Allah azza wa jal. فَمَنْ عَوَّدَ نَفْسَهُ الْعَمَلَ لِلَّهِ. Listen to this beautiful khatima. He mentions فَمَنْ عَوَّدَهُ أو عَوَّدَ نَفْسَهُ الْعَمَلَ لِلَّهِ لَمْ يَكُنْ عَلَيْهِ أَشَقَّ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ لِغَيْرِ. He mentions, whosoever acquaints himself with working for Allah, then there is nothing harsher and more difficult upon him than for him to work for other than Allah. He's used to working lillah, carrying out his actions for the sake of Allah. When he does so, and he's acquainted with that, his nafs is used to it, there is nothing more despicable to him than for him to do something for other than the sake of Allah. He mentions, وَمَنْ عَوَّدَ نَفْسَهُ الْعَمَلَ لِهَوَاهِ وَحَظِّهِ لَمْ يَكُنْ عَلَيْهِ أَشَقُّ مِنَ الْإِخْلَاصِ وَالْعَمَلُ لِلَّهِ. And whomsoever is used to working for himself and doing things for his own desires and his own lot, then there is nothing more difficult and harder upon him than ikhlas, than for him to be sincere and for him to carry that action out for the sake of Allah. وَهَذَا فِي جَمِيعِ أَبْوَابِ الْأَعْمَالِ فَلَيْسَ شَيْءٌ أَشَقُّ عَلَى الْمُنْفِقِ لِلَّهِ مِنَ الْإِنفَاقِ لِغَيْرِهِ وَكَذَا بِالْعَكْسِ. He mentions, and that is with every single action that a person performs. The one who is used to spending for the sake of Allah, then there is nothing more difficult upon him than to spend for the sake of other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the opposite stands true. Ayyuhal ikhwah, these beautiful statements from Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim, they are not just for us, ikhwan, to awe over them and to reflect about how beautifully he has constructed them, ikhwan. They are for action, that we implement them, that we think about these statements when that thought comes to us, that we repel those thoughts, and in relation to our desires and our hawa, that we acquaint ourselves with training and nurturing ourselves upon acting for the sake of Allah and not for the sake of one's desires and our hawa.